Story 1. I was featured on an unaired episode of Unsolved Mysteries as a child. I used to watch the show Unsolved Mysteries with my family every week. It was our favorite pastime, and we would often try to solve the cases before the show revealed the answer. Little did I know that I would one day become a part of an episode myself. It all started when I received a phone call from a man claiming to be a producer for the show. He said that they were interested in featuring me in an upcoming episode about strange occurrences. I was thrilled at the prospect of being on television, and I eagerly agreed to the offer. The day of the shoot arrived, and I was nervous but excited. The crew arrived early in the morning, and we began filming in my home. I told them about the strange occurrences that had been happening around me lately, and they seemed genuinely interested. As the day went on, however, I began to feel uneasy. It was as if the crew was more interested in the spooky atmosphere of my home than in my actual story. They would whisper to each other and sneak around the house, as if trying to catch something on camera. The real terror began when we started filming in the basement. As we descended the stairs, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and I knew that something was wrong. I tried to back out of the scene, but the crew urged me to continue. As we reached the bottom of the stairs, I noticed a figure in the corner of the room. It was a shadowy figure, barely visible in the darkness. The crew didn't seem to notice it, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Suddenly, the figure began to move. It glided across the room towards us, and I could hear its ghostly whispers in my ear. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The crew seemed to be in a trance, and they didn't notice anything unusual. I don't remember much after that. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed. The doctors told me that I had suffered a nervous breakdown, and that I had been found wandering the streets in a state of delirium. To this day, I still don't know what happened on that day. The episode of Unsolved Mysteries was never aired, and the crew vanished without a trace. All I know is that something terrifying happened in that basement, and it still haunts me to this day. So if you ever receive a call from a producer claiming to be from Unsolved Mysteries, be careful. You never know what horrors may await you. Story 2. It was a hot summer night, and Samantha was tossing and turning in her bed, unable to sleep. She had been feeling restless for days, and it seemed like something was crawling under her skin. She scratched at her arms, but it didn't relieve the itchiness she felt. She sat up in bed and reached for her phone, hoping to find some distraction from her discomfort. As she scrolled through her social media feeds, she heard a faint scratching noise coming from her window. She ignored it at first, thinking it was just a tree branch, but the noise persisted. She looked up and saw something moving on the other side of the glass. It was a small creature, about the size of a mouse, but its skin was gray and scaly, and it had long, thin arms that ended in sharp claws. Samantha recoiled in horror, but the creature didn't seem to notice her. It continued to scratch at the window, as if trying to break through. Samantha grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. As she shone the light on the creature, it screeched and recoiled, as if the light was painful to it. Samantha breathed a sigh of relief and thought she had scared it away. But she was wrong. The scratching noise continued, and now Samantha could hear it coming from all directions. She looked around her room and saw more of the creatures crawling on her walls, ceiling, and floor. They had no eyes or mouths, but they seemed to be communicating with each other in some way. Samantha tried to get out of bed, but she felt something pulling her back. She looked down and saw that one of the creatures had wrapped its long arms around her ankle, and it was pulling her towards the edge of the bed. Samantha screamed and kicked at the creature, but it held on tight. She felt more of them crawling up her legs, and she knew she had to get out of the room before they consumed her. She grabbed her phone and ran towards the door, but she couldn't get it open. It was as if someone was holding it shut from the other side. Samantha panicked and pounded on the door, screaming for help, but no one came. The scratching noises grew louder, and Samantha felt the creatures crawling all over her body. She could feel their sharp claws digging into her flesh, and she knew she was going to die. But then, suddenly, the scratching noises stopped, and Samantha felt a cold breeze blowing through the room. She looked up and saw that the creatures were gone. She felt weak and dizzy, and she collapsed on the floor. The next morning, Samantha's roommate found her lying on the floor, covered in scratches and bite marks. She rushed Samantha to the hospital, where the doctors were baffled by her injuries. They had never seen anything like it before. Samantha recovered physically, but she was never the same. She couldn't sleep at night, and she was constantly paranoid that the creatures would return. She moved out of the apartment and never went back. To this day, Samantha doesn't know what those creatures were or where they came from. But she knows that they were real, and that they were coming for her. And if they ever find her again, she knows she won't survive. Story 3. It all started with a strange noise. Every night, as soon as the family went to bed, they could hear it, a soft, rhythmic tapping sound coming from the walls. It wasn't loud enough to be bothersome, but it was persistent. They tried to ignore it, assuming it was just the old pipes settling in, but it never went away. One night, the tapping sound grew louder. It was as if someone was using a hammer and chisel to break through the wall. The family was startled awake, and they could hear the sound coming from every direction. They got up to investigate, but they couldn't find the source of the noise. As the nights went on, the tapping became more intense. It was as if it had a life of its own. They tried to get someone to come and check the pipes, but nobody could find anything wrong with them. The family was at their wits' end, and they were starting to lose sleep over it. One night, the youngest child woke up to use the bathroom. As they were washing their hands, they noticed something strange. The taps were moving on their own, as if controlled by some unseen force. They quickly left the bathroom, too scared to investigate further. The next day, the family decided to call in a professional. They thought it might be a problem with the plumbing, or perhaps even an infestation of rodents. But when the plumber arrived and started checking the pipes, he discovered something horrifying. There were no rodents in the pipes. Instead, he found a long, twisted length of hair, clogging the drain. It was jet black and seemed to shimmer in the light. The family was disgusted and horrified, but the worst was yet to come. As the plumber removed the hair from the drain, it started to move on its own. The hair might be coming for you too. Story 4. The story begins with a man named John who checks into the Hotel Morty, a seemingly normal establishment located in a small town. However, as John settles into his room for the night, he begins to notice strange things happening. The TV turns on and off by itself, objects move on their own, and a mysterious figure appears in the corner of his eye. As the night progresses, John is unable to shake the feeling that he is being watched. He tries to leave the hotel, but finds that the doors are all locked. The hotel seems to have become a prison, and John is trapped inside. As John continues to experience paranormal activity, he realizes that he is not alone. The ghost of a woman, who had died in the hotel years ago, is haunting him. She appears to be angry and vengeful, and she wants John to suffer the same fate she did. John tries to fight back, but he soon realizes that he is no match for the ghost's powers. She possesses his body, causing him to see horrific visions and driving him to the brink of madness. As John's sanity slips away, he becomes more and more desperate to escape the hotel. but the ghost will not let him go. She torments him with her presence, making it clear that he will never leave the Hotel Morty alive. In the end, John's body is found in his hotel room, the victim of an apparent suicide. But those who knew him and heard his story believe that he was driven to his death by the malevolent ghost of the Hotel Morty. The malevolent